Hello, welcome to episode 237 of the Epic Film Challenge to 1,001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. From 1973, the debut film from Terrence Malick, Badlands, starring Sissy, Spacek and Martin Sheen as Holly and Kit, a couple that forms at the beginning of the movie and go off on a wild killing spree in America. In a nutshell, that's Badlands. Well, really, it's the Martin Sheen character, Kit, who's doing the killing, and Holly is along for the ride. She's 15, he's 25, and he's a bit of a greaser, you know. He's got that kind of James Dean look, as they even marketed in the kind of promotion for the film. And, you know, they want to be together, you know, but her father's in the way, and played by the excellent Warren Oates. I wish he was in the film more. I really love him as an actor. But they take off, and it's kind of a, you know, it's an on-the-run movie. And as they go from place to place, Kit ends up killing people. And it's very, very flippant, you know. It's very kind of, you know, just matter of fact. Can't have any witnesses, so I'll kill him, you know. And that's kind of the thing I didn't like about the film, really. Not to be a complete square, but it was a bit in poor taste for me. But I will say it is a film that kind of doesn't treat it too seriously as far as the consequence. I mean, at the very end of the film, hey, spoilers, you know, he's caught, you know, by the police, and he's kind of hanging out at the kind of this kind of warehouse on a plane, and all the police are stood around just listening to him kind of crack jokes and stuff. It's a very odd film. But the thing that kind of gets to me is the fact that it was based off a real life murder spree by this couple, I think. And that always puts a sour taste in my mouth. I don't like that. That's what I don't like about Badlands. As a film, it's pretty damn great. There's definitely the beginnings of a real master filmmaker at work here. Now, I haven't seen any other Terrence Malick film. I know that Days of Heaven is a huge one. Tree of Life is a more recent film that he made, and I think he's only really made a handful of films in his whole career. One of those directors who really just, you know, wouldn't kind of pump films out, but would take his time on them, or at least take a long break between making films. I don't know too much about him, and he seems like quite an elusive figure. Doesn't really do interviews very much and things like that. I did watch the making of on the Blu-ray, and it was really interesting, actually. And, you know, the acting is really, really good. I think Martin Sheen brings something special to this character, and Sissy Spacek, there's just something, she has such a unique quality to her, that woman. There's something about her that's just so strange and different and alluring and innocent, and you just find yourself getting lost in that face, you know, all the emotions that are going on, and she really is able to convey this sense of a young girl who is really lost in the world and lost in her current situation, and perhaps maybe being ripped away from her father. I would have liked to have seen a bit more emotion from her from that, but I think perhaps it's more to the, you know, just the shock of it, or just the complacency, you know, this kind of life that really had no meaning for her, and she's just being carried off to another kind of meaningless life with Kit. And you really get the sense that he isn't someone who is malicious and wants to go out killing people. That was never the plan. But he's kind of been forced into this position through, you know, a series of unfortunate events, you know. Certainly not that I would say, oh, you know, he isn't really guilty, you know, it wasn't his fault, you know. Certainly I think that, you know, he's a murderer, you know, to a point he knew what he was doing. But just a young kid who just, you know, made the wrong move and just kept on making the wrong moves until he just didn't know what else to do. But also a real kind of delusional sense of ego towards the end of the film, where he kind of builds this little rock monument when he gets caught. He's like, this is the spot where you caught me, I want everyone to know, you know. And just when they catch him in the police car, and he's just kind of throwing his charisma around in that cop car, and they're trying to remain stone-faced, but the police are kind of like smirking, you know. He just has that effect on people. So you do enjoy this time you spend with the characters. My favourite part of the film was when they were living in the wilderness. They built this little tree house. An amazing little scene. I loved that. And the cinematography is what really kind of elevates this film much higher than it would have been without it. I think you just get this incredible look at some great American scenery and landscapes, but it's not just pointing a camera at a great landscape, it's about pointing it in the right way, framing it in the right way, composition. There's some incredible shots in this film, moments where it's a quiet part of the film and you're just seeing a character kind of set against the backdrop of this expanse, and there's something really powerful about that. And so I think Malick really had a visual sense of what he wanted to do with the film. So that's a real strength to the film too. And again, the performances. But ultimately, it's a very, very good film for me. I really enjoyed it. Still a little bit uneasy about the whole the killing aspect, and again being based on an actual murder spree, killing spree, whatever you want to call it. Not too fond of that, but it's not something I'm completely looking down my nose at either. And I do recognize some of the great moments in the film that make it a memorable experience to watch as a film. And probably my favorite scene, the one that I think of the most with this film, is when he goes to this little booth, Kit, and he kind of records this message on kind of a vinyl record. I don't want to say what he says, but that scene is just the way he performs it, the way it plays out, just really connected me to the reality and the presentness of that moment and that character, where he was going. It was a real raw moment. I think probably the best of the film. But yeah, and again, the whole thing with him being 25 and Holly being 15. It's a bit weird as well. Didn't like that. I mean, I think Martin Sheen was maybe 30. And I think Sissy Spacek was in her early 20s. So I don't know why they couldn't have just had that be the ages of the characters. But I guess... Am I just hearing that? I've just got kind of the dog frequency. Oh no. So the people banging around outside, planes going overhead, you just can't avoid the noise. And there we go. Jesus Christ. I don't even know if you even picked that up, and I might just look like a complete lunatic, but background noise, what can you do? Badlands. Yeah, really enjoyed it. Very, very good film. Is it a film you should see before you die? I think it is. I think most people won't have any problems with the fact that the main character is killing people. I mean, you look at films like, Pulp Fiction or whatever, where people just blasting each other away, and it's like, oh, this is great, really entertaining. So maybe I'm a complete hypocrite. But just the fact that it is kind of a serious story, it does try to have some drama and weight to it, and it isn't played off completely. Well, it is played off for laughs at times, but there's this real interesting sensibility about it that will make me return to it. So maybe in future viewings I'll see even more in this film that I enjoy, and I'll have a higher opinion of it. But I do think it is a film you should see before you die, even though I didn't fully embrace it because of that murderous aspect of the lead character. But yeah, it's definitely a very, very good film. Almost a great one, I think, but one worth seeing for the great cinematography and just for it felt like a unique voice was telling this story, and that alone I think is something that most people should see. So there we go. That's my thoughts on Badlands. I know a lot of people love this film. They think it's a masterpiece, and I think someone even said they can't wait to hear my thoughts on it. So I apologize if I didn't love it as much as you, but that's why we're all different. We all have our own opinions, and I do recognize the greatness in the film. But for me personally, it wasn't one that I fully loved. But definitely one you should see before you die.